Salesforce admin groups February meeting. And we have our guest with us, Michael Kolodner. He's going to talk about design for user success, build fun and functional lighting record pages. So I'll do a couple housekeeping things and then we'll get started. As long as I can move my slides. What the heck's going on? There we go. Now it's jumping everywhere. Of course it is. Anyway, don't mind me, folks. It's been that kind of day. Agenda. So again, let me do a quick intro for us, everybody here, and then some housekeeping stuff. And at 6:40, we'll get started with Michael's presentation, and then we'll move on to just want to let everybody know who the current community group leaders are. So thanks to them. That's Jon Christensen, myself, Bill Hare, Stephanie Parretti, and Andrew Fragias. And we are constantly working on trying to, as it's listed here, plan some meetings, host meetings, communicate group info, all that good stuff. We also have a number of groups here in Boston. In case you're sort of new and don't realize it, we've got the architect group, the marketer group, the women in tech. They're all listed here, and that URL should take you to the groups page. The QR code should take you to the community group page, and that should get you more info. And I'm going to have Stephanie jump in here for a second and talk about our next meeting coming up in March.
Hello. I have been working on the logistics of this event coming up Wednesday, March 4th. Brooke Monkern is going to be talking all about metadata. This is a really exciting event for us. It's going to be in person in Boston. It's like right next to South Station, so very easy to get in and out of the city. It's going to be sponsored by Sweep. This is going to be one of our first sponsored events. So we're really excited to have this collaboration. I just posted this up on the site as well. I'm adding a link in the chat as well. We would love to have you out, and happy to have you grill Brooke and ask him all your burning questions about metadata.
All right. Thanks, Stephanie. And as long as we're talking upcoming events, I'm a member of the planning committee for Northeast Dreaming. So if you're into community conferences and want to join us up in New Hampshire, October 29th and 30th, we're going to have a day and a half or so of good learning, networking, all that good stuff. Hope to see you there. And now, without any further ado, I'm going to pass it off to Michael. Let me stop presenting, and you can take over, Michael.
All right, give me a sec to figure out the screen share deal here.
All right.
That window, this window, and then we go to full screen mode. Now, what are you seeing? Are you seeing my slide, or are you seeing presenter mode?
We're seeing presenter mode. There we go. Now we're good.
Oh, you're seeing just my slide. Okay.
Yep.
I can't see any of you anymore, so just jump in if you need to talk. Thank you for having me, everyone. Appreciate the chance to be there. I wish I could have come up in person and visited my son, who's got out of college last spring and is fully employed and living in Cambridge. But we'll do another user group meeting where I come up and visit him. My name's Michael Kolodner. I'm a solo consultant. I work with nonprofits doing program management on the platform. I'm a member of the Salesforce MVP Hall of Fame. I have some certifications, and something you might not know about me, but you will by the end of this presentation, I'm an amateur photographer. So I'm going to use some of my photographs to illustrate the points in today's presentation. Since we're going on a journey together, let me start by introducing myself by way of my Trailblazer journey. You may be surprised to learn that I did not set out to become a Salesforce admin. I'm an accidental admin. I was actually in the Foreign Service. I was going to solve the Middle East peace crisis, but I was posted to Yemen in 2000, and that career did not continue. I then spent about a decade as a full-time stay-at-home dad, and in my first job back in the work world, I was at a small nonprofit. We needed CRM. I went and did some research, and this Salesforce thing sounded like a good idea because it was free for a nonprofit. We'll talk more about that, but we implemented with the help of a partner. I really was interested in the system. I had sort of been stalked by databases my whole life, and here I finally found one that I could get to do my bidding, and I started asking some questions on the Power of Us hub of other nonprofiteers, and really just was blown away by the generosity of the Salesforce community, people's generosity with their time and their wisdom. I eventually was able to start answering some questions and decided I wanted to try having a full-time Salesforce job. So I managed to find one. I was a solo admin at a small nonprofit, and they gave me the opportunity to start attending some events, including Dreamforce. In 2016 was my first Dreamforce. I started making friends. By then I was, gaining more knowledge and was able to share it back to people and pay it forward. And fast forward to the pandemic when I got laid off from that job and took my side gig, put it in the front, and became a full-time independent consultant. I actually write a blog about Salesforce in the nonprofit context called Free Like a Puppy. I hope some of you on the call are subscribers or have read my work. Always looking for more people to, like and follow the blog. Just sticking with the animal theme for a moment, this was my first flock, my family's first flock of chickens. From the left, that's Willow, Buffy, Gandalf, and Sauron. They're not with us any longer. That's 12 years ago, I suppose, but we have a current flock of 6 chickens. All right, let's get into the content. So today we're going to talk about design for user success, how to build fun and functional lightning record pages. We have a couple of goals, both as a presentation and for you to bring back to your colleagues. Our main goal is to help you make Salesforce more intuitive so your users can be more productive. But while we're at it, hopefully we can have some fun, both tonight, but also you can have some fun in the work world with your colleagues. I think bubbles are fun, so I wanted to use this photo. All right, we have just a short time together tonight, so here's what I'm going to share with you. We're going to do this in 3 parts. We're going to talk about the principles of composition. We're going to do a little bit of show and tell of actual Salesforce record pages of mine, and then we're going to talk about how I built it so that you can go home and do it for yourselves. You do not need to take notes because I'm going to show you this slide at the end. Again, I will show it again. You don't have to grab it yet. I will show you this slide again at the end, and it will have links to all of the stuff I've talked about today. And so you can work through it at your own pace. All right, let's talk about the principles of composition. So composition is what makes up a work of art. We're going to talk primarily today or entirely today about visual art. Art, of course, exists for its own sake. Design is art with a purpose. So we're going to talk about design. The principles of composition apply to both. Of course, we're going to talk about the design of visual medium because Salesforce is a web page. So we're going to think about the principles of composition and the 7 elements that people talk about in the principles of composition, which will allow us to analyze on a work of art, or in this case, a Salesforce page. So first we have emphasis, which is to say what is important. What should the viewer be taking in as the main focus of what they're looking at? Balance, meaning are elements within the composition given the right weight, not necessarily equal weight or not necessarily symmetrical, but the right weight for their importance. Contrast, which in a visual medium basically means color and brightness. And I'm just going to say right up front, generally, I'm not going to spend a lot of time and thought on contrast. I'm going to let the Salesforce Lightning Design System handle that for me, which is great because then it means a multi-billion-dollar company can take into account web content accessibility guidelines, and I don't have to worry about it as much. Repetition. So reusing design elements and design vocabulary. This is going to help, in our case, users, but in the case of any other artistic medium, your viewers, stay oriented and understand what you are trying to communicate if you reuse the same vocabulary. Proportion. Again, this is related to contrast. This is our elements of more importance larger than smaller and the balance between them or the proportions among them. This is something that mostly the SLDS is going to take care of again for us, which is great because then it's taken care of by professional designers, which I am not. Movement. So generally this is going to mean eye movement, as in how does your eye move throughout the composition? We're going to see this time and again in my presentation. And last but not least is white space. Those areas of the canvas where there is less going on might in fact be nothing, that is to say white canvas, but it gives your eyes a chance to rest. We have a goal of making our Salesforce pages information rich or information dense, but not overwhelming. And that is a balance that we need to, navigate, and white space helps us with that navigation. So 7 elements of composition we're going to keep in mind as we analyze some photographs and then some Salesforce pages. So I would say, for example, here we have quite a lot of movement, as in your eye is drawn to the center. We have repetition in those converging lines, but I would also argue we have emphasis by the arch in the center where your focus is drawn. Probably not a lot of white space there, but this one has a little more white space to let your eyes rest. But note, there's also repetition in the bridge cables. There's, I would say, a lot of balance in the contrasting colors of the sky and the bridge. There's a nice proportion there. There's movement as your eye is drawn along those bridge stays into the Golden Gate Bridge. I could go on, but I'm not going to, because I like this one. Now, I know exactly what your eyes did as soon as this came on the screen. I can predict that you went straight to the dead center of this photograph. You went to the eyes of the guy in the middle, because we do this as humans. We have evolved to look at faces, in fact, the eyes within the face. And then here's where I'm predicting your eyes follow kind of a nautilus shell shape. They spiral from the eyes. Generally, they're going to spiral counterclockwise, following the repetition of those canes. And of course, you're bounded by the edge of the photograph. You stay within it and right back to the center again. You can't help it. Your eyes are just drawn there to his eyes, and you almost have to physically force yourself to move focus and see other parts of the composition. And so we're going to use our understanding of how we work to guide what we do on our Salesforce pages. All right, let's do some show and tell now. We're going to look at some of my page layouts. We're going to apply the same kinds of analysis that I did on those photographs to pages. So this is a typical page of mine. Obviously, it's a contact page. I will let you know. I could show you any other object in this org or any of my other clients. It's going to look pretty similar. So I'm pretty much using contacts for all my examples tonight, but I promise you everything else looks similar. The reason I'm using contact is because it's the heart of most of my clients. We're nonprofits. We deal with people for the most part as our constituents. But if your heart of your organization is about accounts or opportunities, you could start there. The point is, contacts for us are where a lot of things begin, and so all the information converges. The reason my pages look the same across objects is that's repetition in my design vocabulary. It helps my users stay oriented. They know exactly what they need to find, regardless of what object they're on, and they know where to find it. Also, of course, I'm showing you dummy data. This is a production org. You can see there's no banner across the top saying which sandbox this is. This is test data that's in production, but I promise you it's test data. I'm not revealing anything, any PII. So when the page loads, this is what your eyes do. Generally speaking, we all as Salesforce professionals have learned to pretty much ignore the tabs across the top. But you know they're there, but your eye quickly sweeps from the upper left to the bottom right. For those of us who speak a left to right language, which we're talking in today, it would go the opposite way if this was in Arabic or Hebrew. Point is, you go from the upper left to the bottom right, you quickly take in that there's a tab component, that there's a bunch of details fields. You hit the bottom of the screen, you have to bounce back up because you've hit a wall. You take in what's on the right-hand side, you sweep back across to the left, and you do it again. But that instant you've taken in what's on the page, and I've been able to direct your eye to what's important as you go. Now, what else can we see in this page? Well, I would argue it's got a nice balance. So I'm using the 50-50 split, or the header and 2 equal regions lightning record page template. We'll talk more about that in a minute, but I think this gives good balance, which helps the users just be sort of calm and not agitated as they're working their way through the page. And it makes it easy to know when you need to be on the left or you need to be on the right. It's got equal weight. Okay, another element of repetition. It's hard to demonstrate this in a slide deck, but I promise you, no matter where you load one of my Salesforce orgs, any tab components that are on the page, they load to the leftmost tab, the first tab, if you will. It drives me crazy that Salesforce's defaults don't work that way. This is what people expect. I have not yet had anyone argue with me that it shouldn't load to the first tab. It always loads to the first tab. If the tab I want you to load to is details, it should be first. If for some reason I want to switch things up and load to some other tab, fine, put that tab leftmost. So you can see the upper left, I have, the tab for everything that's going on that loads to details. In the bottom right, very at the bottom of the screen, just before the scroll, I have a chatter and activity tab. That one loads to the left as well. In this case, it's loading to chatter because we decided chatter is what would be needed most frequently. Many other times, and for many others of my clients, we load to the activities tab because we want to see the activity feed, but then that one is on the left and chatter is on the right. Another element of consistency that's illustrated here, although you wouldn't know it, is I try to put same types of fields in the same places. So I'm highlighting there a status field, which is like a case status, or an opportunity stage, or any stages or statuses you might have on any of your custom objects, as we have one here for student. Generally speaking, I'm going to put a stage or a status in the right-hand column of the uppermost section of the details page and towards the top, generally towards the very top. I don't have a particular reason for that. I think it comes out of the Salesforce opportunity page layout defaults from ancient times, but it makes sense to me. And so if I use it all the time, then my users know when they go to some other object and they're looking for that object's stage or status, their eyes are going to know instantly where to start looking, and they'll find it within a couple of fields from the top. Other things about this page. You may have noticed that there's a related list quick links component in the upper right, but I have hidden its header, which says related list quick links. I don't think that header provides a whole lot of information to users, and I don't want to waste the ½ inch of vertical screen real estate because that's the real estate that's actually at a premium, and I'm trying to reduce scrolling. I actually think I'm kind of a little bit traumatized by my first full-time Salesforce position, where all of my colleagues had 11-inch MacBook Airs. If you remember those, their screens are about this big. So there was a lot of scrolling to be done, and I don't want to have people doing any more than is necessary. I've also reduced scrolling by taking fields off the details page layout and putting them behind tabs. I've also put related lists behind tabs. The point is, instead of my users having to scroll to find what they're looking for, which can be a little nauseating if I was to demonstrate it on screen, they can just click into a tab and find what they're looking for in one click instead of some indeterminate amount of scrolling. Now, those of you who've been paying attention might be thinking to yourselves, Michael, there is not a lot of white space on this page. And I will own that. You are right. There is not a lot of white space on this page. That's a bit intentional. This page is intentionally very information dense. I actually think of this as my contact dashboard, if you will. From this page, you can learn basically everything there is to know about a student in a glance or a couple of clicks or whatever. So the goal here was super information density, and we made a choice to have a little bit of less white space, and people will survive. But we'll look at more like white space momentarily. Okay, last note. For all that this page is quite custom in what I've done, I have some single related lists on the right. I have the related list quick links, which are not a default feature. I have tabs on the left. I have a 50-50 split instead of the default Lightning record page template. I still think this page is pretty familiar. And even if any of you on the call are new to Salesforce, or if one of my users is new to Salesforce, and then I send them to Trailhead, and they go into a default Trailhead playground, they're not going to be super lost working in that default instance. They're going to be like, okay, it looks different than what I'm used to, but it's close enough that I understand what's going on. I have not built a fully custom UI here. That's intentional. I have my complaints about the Salesforce user experience or user interface, but it's worth using the default or something close to the default so that skills transfer across orgs. All right, let's get off of this contact page a little bit. We're going to click on the earnings tab. So when we click on the earnings tab, we're on the same contact, of course. Look, we just gained some white space. Whew, thank goodness. And our focus has shifted. It has clearly shifted to the financial contribution section there under this tab. So what do we have here? We have some roll-up summary fields on the top. Note, these are roll-up summary fields. Users are not going to interact with them. So I don't need to worry that they're behind a tab and they're not part of the edit modal. These are not fields users should be changing, only referencing. And then below it, we have the related records that those roll-up summaries come from. So everything behind this tab is thematic. If you click on the tab, you know what's going to be there, and only what's going to be there is related to earnings. Now, let's click into one of those financial contribution records. The page has just changed a lot. This is a simple object. This is not contact anymore. There's not a million related records. So what have we done with this page? Well, your focus has shifted to just a handful of fields. What, maybe 10 fields or so? We don't have this giant page with lots going on. Notice, because this is a simple object and it doesn't have a ton of related records, I don't need tabs on that left-hand portion of the page. So I've actually gotten rid of the tab component and I've put the details component directly on the canvas. That's just reducing some visual clutter, removing that ½ inch of space that the tab component takes up, so there's a little less scrolling. It just helps, I think, simplify the page, leave more room for white space. Now, there is one related list related to this financial contribution, which is the files uploader, or the list if you had files there. So I've moved related over to the right. It's in the same, chatter is now on that same place where it always is, but related loads first. You can see it. It's very easy to find. Users are not going to have to hunt around and try to figure out where the files related list has gone. It's going to be right there in their face, but they can get to chatter if they need it with one click. Okay, what else is going? There's some color on this page, right? Look, there's a nice orange banner. It's orange. I'm a little like agitated. I feel like I still need to do something because it's not finished. But there's also color on that emoji on the button, which draws my eye. Color is different from everywhere else on the page. So let's click on Enter Disbursement, which is clearly what we want to do. So we click on that button and up pops the Enter Disbursement modal. Whoop, that went very fast. Let me go back. We enter a few fields. I don't know why it's going so fast today. And it turned green. I know I'm done now. Green means go. I can leave this page. It's very satisfying. All of this is to say your pages do not have to be boring. You can put fields, you can move them around, you've got color, you've got buttons with emoji in them. There's lots of things you can do that are going to help your users do the right thing at the right time, see the right information when it's important to them. Okay, let's have a momentary visual palette cleanser. There's a lot of white space in this photograph, but I hope it's not boring. And let's talk about how we build pages like that. So I'm not doing anything fancy tonight. Tonight we're talking only about Lightning record pages, otherwise known as flexi pages. These same principles would apply to anything you're doing in Salesforce, or frankly in web pages or whatever. You could apply these principles to a screen flow that you're designing, or a Visualforce page if you're going to do that, or a Lightning Web component. But we're going to talk about flexi pages today. And I'm, with one exception, going to stick to things you can do out of the box. And then I would say, or nearly out of the box for some other things. But you can do these things really right away. The first thing, I already previewed this several times, is if you take nothing else away from tonight, please go home and change your page templates. So the default Salesforce template is the what I call the 2/3, 1/3, right? A 2/3 column and then a column down the right. If you go into the Lightning App Builder and you click on the change button on template, you get this box, and you can switch to header and 2 equal regions instead of header, subheader, and right sidebar. Why do I prefer the 2 equal regions? I just don't think the 2-to-1 split, the default, is nearly as usable. Mainly because in the 2-to-1 split and Salesforce's default page layouts, related lists are often in the small section, which they usually put on the right. Related lists in that small section do not display as lists. They display as cards. I don't even think a related pile of cards is a thing, but lists are really functional. You can see like 4, 5, 6, 10 items. You can glance down them. You know which one to click on. If you need to go into one of the items in the related list, I don't think the cards are nearly as functional like that. So I really believe the header and 2 equal regions is a far superior page layout. So number one tip, go and think about your page template. Okay, the next thing I want you to start thinking about is, as you saw on many of my pages, field placement. So starting in the upper left, right? We've started with the details. I always load to the details pane. I really believe this is what people expect when they're clicking on a record. They want to see the details of that record. You're going to pay attention to where on the page, of course, the important information is, and order and sizes of sections and all that. I think that goes without saying. But you also can think about taking stuff off the page layout. So you can take stuff off the page layout and put it behind a tab, like I showed with the financial earnings tab. You can also take things off and put them elsewhere on the page. So on the right-hand side there, I have a bunch of fields. Again, these are pretty much roll-up summary fields. And those are the fields I want my users to quickly see and learn how this program participant is doing. So that's why they're placed where they are. As we showed in the beginning, right, your eye starts at the upper left, comes down, takes in what's the page structure, hits the bottom, bounces up to the right, and then it comes upon these chunks of fields. And this is where they instantly grasp, oh, this person's attendance was not great. And oh, there's an emoji saying, warning, they need to improve. That's bad, one assumes. I've put it where their eye is going to linger on it after it has learned the page structure, and it's like, oh, I need to understand what's going on with Luke here. Now, let me go off on a little bit of a tangent, because I just moved fields around on the page. And you might be thinking, did he do that in dynamic forms? And the answer is, Actually, I did not. So I think dynamic forms is a really cool feature, and it's great for certain things. And it's great if you are a solo admin and you control your whole org, go to town with dynamic forms. I, however, am bouncing from org to org, and some orgs are using dynamic forms and some are not. And if I have to switch back and forth, my head's going to explode. There's also some downsides still to dynamic forms that kind of give me a little bit of agita, including that when you create a new field, now you can add that field to dynamic forms that exist, but it's a lot easier to lose track of which fields are on the page layout yet, because you could put a field on a dynamic form. You could put it in multiple places. You could put it on and conditionally hide it. There's all sorts of ways that you won't necessarily know who's going to see the field or whether anyone's going to see it at all. And that gives me a little bit of nerves. You could, of course, add them unintentionally more than once. I think they may have solved this, but there was for a long time no blank space, no blank spacer that you could put in. And I really don't like that the collapsibility of sections does not persist the way it does from the original page layout editor. So I still mostly use non-dynamic forms. And also, by the way, keep in mind that you still have to maintain the classic page layout, because that's what currently controls list view editability and report editability for fields. So you're still having to manage both things. Therefore, when I move fields around, I use the related record hack. I'm sorry, I highlight key fields on Lightning record pages, which is what I called it when I wrote about it on the Salesforce admins blog. The related record hack is not a hack. It's not going to break your org, I promise. Why do I call it a hack? I call it a hack because despite its name, and you'll see, and how you use it, you are not taking action and you're not doing it on a related record. So it feels a little hacky, even though I'm using standard Salesforce functionality. How do you do the related record hack? It's pretty simple, and the full instructions are in a link later, so I'm going quick here. You make a new action in your object. You give your action a name. You give it a description, because you are good about giving descriptions to all your metadata. And then you go to the screen to edit layout of your new action. And you get a little mini action, or a little mini page layout editor. Remove the fields you don't want. Don't worry about the warning that tells you don't worry about it. And then add the fields you want to display somewhere on your page. And save that. Now you have this quick action. And then in the Lightning App Builder, you add the related record component, and you select the update action that you just built. So here's the other hacky part, right? You built an action, but we're mostly using it to show things. And you built an action for a related record, but you see where it says lookup field in the middle of my screen there? We're using the same record we're on, not a related record. So it feels really hacky because the names are all weird, but it's just showing a bunch of fields on the record you're on. It's meant to be a little button you could make a quick action that would pop them up. But if you do it this way, you can just put them somewhere on the page. So we have a quick action there, related record hack, showing those 10 pertinacity fields. Above it is another quick action showing the attendance and punctuality fields. And they're really easy for me to just place them where I want them on the page. And I didn't have to wait for dynamic forms, which I've been using this hack since before dynamic forms was even a thing. All right, back off of that tangent. We'll have a little palette cleanser again. Okay, another super powerful feature of Lightning record pages is conditional display, which I referenced, especially when we're talking about dynamic forms. But you don't have to just use it for field sections in dynamic forms. You can conditionally display whole tab components. You can conditionally display those banners that are over on the right there. Those banners you can see, right? Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3, and Tier Not Set. They're the same basic banner. They're controlled by the tier field, and only one of them will be conditionally displayed at a time. But it's really powerful. I'm going to talk about how I did those in a second. And then on the bottom right there, you see another conditionally displayed tab set. You can now conditionally display a tab within a set, which is pretty cool. Tabs and accordions. I mean, I've showed tabs a million times already, right? Tabs are super powerful and really understandable for your users. They're right within the web vernacular of how you navigate. Accordions are pretty fun. I like the way they open and close vertically. I don't necessarily use them maybe as much as I could. Tabs are just often my go-to, but they are pretty fun. And if you're paying attention, you might have noticed, yes, those are emoji in my, in this case, accordion or tab headers, tab labels. Emoji are super fun in all sorts of places. Another element of design that you might not think of is screen flows. So this screen flow is a traditional screen flow. It's on a page layout and it's used to take some kind of action. But screen flows don't have to be for doing stuff. This screen flow is actually just a design element. It goes out and gathers information from a bunch of related records, can even do some processing on that information, and then puts it together in a nice kind of mail merged format. But it's really just displaying that format. So it's a design element of the page more than it is a screen flow meant to take action. So keep in mind that you can use screen flows to put information in a different place or display it in a different way than the general Salesforce user experience would allow for. Okay, one other thing that clearly you can do within the Lightning App Builder is third-party components, components that you install. This is one of my favorites. It's called Lightning Messaging Utility from Salesforce Labs. It's how I made all those banners that I showed. You simply you install it. Link is in the resources at the end. You install it, and then you drag this component onto the page. It has its little features pane on the right-hand side. You add a message body. You check off that it should be shown. You set up conditional display. You can show an icon or not, and the icons can come from the Salesforce Lightning Design System. You could also put an emoji within the message body. You can do all sorts of things with these banners, and they look like they belong within the Lightning Design System because they are, in fact, compliant with it, part of the Salesforce Lightning Design System. It's free. It's from Salesforce Labs. You should be able to install it anywhere. Of course, other AppExchange apps that you might pay for also have, this is another free one. This is called Launch Flow in Modal from Salesforce Labs. It does pretty much what it sounds like. You can put a button on the page, and then when you click that button, it launches a flow in a pop-up window, a modal, instead of on the page canvas, which just can be a design choice. Maybe you have a flow that needs more space. You don't want to put it behind a tab or cram it on the right-hand side. You could just have it pop up into a modal. And then I was going to say, things you pay for might come with their own page design components. So here, for example, are buttons from Appsona that allow you to launch a merge action for document generation. Many of your third-party components are going to come with some sort of thing many of your third-party packages are going to come with some kind of component you might put on the Lightning page. Think about the design of that. Think about how your users will know where to find it, etc., etc. So that was a lot. There's a lot you can do in the Lightning App Builder. Even before you go and get any third-party components, you can do all this stuff real quick, and it's really powerful. Okay, as promised, here's that resource slide and a link to I just used my same link from Northeast Dreamin'. Go ahead and grab that QR code or that link. We could put it in the chat. I can't right now because I can't see the chat yet, and I'm going to leave this up for a moment. But everything I talked about, how to do the related record hack, so all of my design principles, a lot of other things are on those resources. So I hope that will be helpful. And we should have plenty of time for some Q&A. And as we discussed at the beginning, for those of you who came in later, if you want to ask a question, you need to raise your hand so we can figure out how to unmute you.
Yep. If you guys want to raise your hand, we can click it and allow you to speak. I know we had a few questions in the chat as well, if you guys want to share those.
I'm just quickly looking, trying to find which are questions and versus comments.
Salo, I'm going to go ahead and approve you. You should be good to turn your microphone on.
Oh, it works.
Yeah. Welcome.
All right. Great presentation. Love
Thank
the
you.
topic. Very relatable. Everything we're doing. I have a question on the use of chatter in tabs. Chatter is a functionality available for everyone, very well known, but every org needs the tab different. Some people put updates, some people put chatter, different things, just because they want to stay away from the word chatter. I was wondering if you see that as well, or if you see solutions to put the chatter component in a better place on the page.
So you came in and out, but I think I understood the question that you were asking about placement of chatter on the page, and some people are sort of moving away from the name chatter because Salesforce is kind of using it less. Was there more to it that I missed?
Yeah, that's exactly right.
So I will say they're going to pry chatter out of my cold, dead hands. I think it is an incredibly useful feature. I understand they want you to buy Slack, and Slack can be really useful. I love that chatter is right there in context. And I usually mention this, but I guess it just slipped my mind today. Part of the reason I always put chatter on the right-hand side is because you can then have the chatter composer open, and you can be looking at the details tab at the same time. And 90% of the time, I find that what at least I'm using chatter for is, hey, Stephanie, are you sure this person's phone number starts with 555? That's a fake area code, right? Or some detail about the record that might be wrong. And so it's nice to be able to see the record while I'm typing my chatter and then hit send. And then I just love that it stays there in context on the record. Yes, it's not reportable, but yes, it's great for notifications, and it automatically sends someone an email notification and all that stuff. So I actually think chatter is a really great feature. I wish they weren't moving away from it. I know Parker joked that he brought chatter into the world and he can take it out. But I don't see them doing it anytime soon. And basically all of my clients use chatter at least a little bit. It's just super convenient in a way that, you know, pushing the notification to Slack might be great for things you do in Slack, but it's not great for, like, I'm looking at this record and I have a question about this record.
Perfect. Thank you.
By the way, I mentioned this in some of my other presentations. Did you know you can turn on chatter on reports and dashboards? It's awesome. If you go into feed tracking in setup, feed tracking, select reports, click turn on, I forget what the actual checkbox is, but it's right there on reports, and then do the same on dashboards. Then you will get a conversation button, a chatter button on reports and dashboards, which is a great way to say to someone, hey, I built this report you asked about. Is this doing what you need? And then they automatically get a link to the report you're talking about. Because boy, do I hate it when a client says to me, the fundraising report is broken. And I'm like, which report are you talking about? There's 50 with fundraising in the title. But if they chatter me from it and @ mention me from it, I know which report they're talking about. Oop, I was trying to give Linda, did I miss it? Linda, raise your hand again if you aren't able to unmute.
I think she's good. I just gave her presenter mode.
Okay.
Let me start my video. I don't know why my video is not. Here we go. Hello. I'm slightly in my PJs, but I am here and I'm calling you all the way from Florida. And I just have to comment, what a beautiful presentation. It was incredibly robust. I am a business analyst in the Salesforce ecosystem of 8 years with 9 certifications. And your post really caught my eye about lightning web pages, because we all want to become experts, right, Michael? So it was really nice. And I just have a very specific question regarding your mention of LWCs pertaining to referencing them from App Exchange and also being able.
You just went mute.
Oh, I went mute? I shouldn't have gone mute.
I can't. Can anyone else hear her?
Can everybody still hear me?
Yeah, I can hear.
Okay. So, Michael, I don't know. Everyone else can hear me.
Can you hear me?
No.
I can hear you.
What? Great. I'm the only one who can't hear. Can you hear me? You can hear me,
Yes,
can't you?
I can hear
All right,
you.
let me mess with my microphone here. Can someone else talk now?
Hi.
Yes, I can hear you
Testing.
perfectly.
Okay, I can hear you again. Try again with your question. Sorry about that.
Okay, so basically, I loved your presentation, and my very specific question is, when you talk about the reference using Salesforce Labs and LWC from App Exchange, you got me. Everything that you talked about, I had familiarity with, but that one topic, you got my ears growing. Okay, so I'm asking you, in all due respect, are you talking about, for example, it says top recommended Salesforce Labs LWCs are timeline component. It allows you to visualize related records in a timeline, right? Lightning Web chart to customize charts, mock-up components for UI design, Jabberjaw. Are those the things you're alluding to, question mark?
Oh, so that sounds like an article that's not mine, but
Right,
so
it's not yours.
Salesforce Labs,
Right,
yeah,
right.
Salesforce Labs is a program by which Salesforce employees can write tools on their own time and publish them. Yes.
Yeah.
So the Lightning messaging utility is one of those projects, and it's published by Salesforce Labs. You can find it on the App Exchange.
Okay.
And the link is in my resource slide, and I was just trying to pull it up so I could actually put the Lightning messaging utility is this tool that I'm putting in the chat right now on the App Exchange.
So are those all the things that you're talking about when you talk about LWC and tapping Salesforce Labs? Like, those are examples of some of the things that you could integrate into your web page, correct, sir?
Yep, Salesforce Labs has a bunch of LWCs. Unofficial SF is also a great resource for various things. Mostly their things are like flow components. But like I said, you could use a flow as a page design element, and Salesforce Labs had some great flow components to make your flows prettier.
If you have any questions, feel free to raise your hand in the info bar below. Oh, John, would you like to?
Yeah, I was wondering if you could speak to that feature of exposing the screen flow and pulling in information into that sort of right hand layout, and just talk about that. Just go into that a little bit more. It seemed pretty cool, and like maybe there was some interesting use cases for that.
Yeah, I mean, basically, like, there's nothing really terribly special about that one that I was showing. The cool thing about a screen flow, right, is you get, I'm going to say, not all sorts of control, but you get different control over what you can put on the design. I mean, at the very least, right, we've all been wanting 3-column layouts forever, and we can't have it. But on a screen flow, you can actually break it up into 12 columns worth of, I mean, good luck fitting 12 fields across. But anyway, you could do 4 columns or whatever. you have different options with the screen flow that you can design that screen. In essence, I'm talking about one screen, right? A screen flow with just one screen. And it depends what you want to do with it. It could be a one screen that it literally does a get records and then it just displays some fields. But you could, instead of putting those as fields, you like that screen that I had there, I would reshare my screen, but then everything goes screwy.
Yeah, no worries.
You can use a text display component, and you can then, you can write out some instructions and merge in a field from the record, and so you could turn it from a screen that has label field, label field, label field. You could turn it into, let's say, a paragraph, along the lines of like, an account summary that like a generative AI would make, but actually guaranteed what it's going to say, and then just display a paragraph that's like, this is a X-year-old student from Y high school who's interested in Z, and then merge that in and just display a screen. You don't even have to have the button at the bottom. You can just have a screen that did that, and in a way that you have different design options than a formula field. You can make it bold and italics and God knows what else. You can throw in emoji. You can throw an emoji in a formula field, by the way, but right, you can throw in emoji. So it just gives you options. And if you think about it as, I know I have options for how I might design a screen flow. Now the shift is just, I can put a screen flow anywhere on the page as a design component. That's all.
Got it. Cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
I like that. That was a really great presentation. Thank you for that.
Oh, my speaker went weird again. I could not hear you, Stephanie.
I said thank you.
Nope.
It was hi, testing.
It's
testing.
me. It's clearly me. It's
I
my
think
computer.
It's you.
No, I got nothing.
Testing. Well, I mean, we're kind of at the end.
I am now dead in the water. So I think that's where I stop being the presenter.
Sounds good. Thank you. Thank you guys all so much for coming. Check out the Boston Salesforce admin group for our upcoming event on March 4th. We'll be in person in Boston. And feel free to reach out to any of us on LinkedIn, especially Michael. He's awesome, has a lot of great presentations. Check out his blog as well, Free Like a Puppy. All right. Thank you guys all so much. Have a good day.
Thanks, everyone.